Hi everyone, Nicole here. We are working into week 2 and I just wanted to touch base with everybody as we cover some more content. I know last week gave a quick overview of like what we think about when we see CRM and what that means. I think right now it's as important as ever to really understand the dynamic between our customers and the relationships we build and how to create loyalty among our customer base. And that'll be some of the conversations that we have this week. Just a few things on housekeeping. I'm still a printer. I don't print everything. I try to keep things online, but I do still print a few things, and I always keep that schedule for the class. So this week you have the first writing assignment. So make sure you turn in your first writing assignment and do the discussion board this week. If you haven't already, be sure that you are thinking about the company that you want to use for the final paper. And like I said in the announcement from last week, I am not very particular about what company you choose. I like for you all to feel that it means something to you and that it's something that you're interested in. That way you feel that it's more valuable. The only thing I like to make sure about, sorry, my desk just shook the camera a little bit. The only thing I like to make sure about is that there's enough information available to you to make a quality paper, because you will need to make sure that you can find resources. If you happen to know somebody who owns a business or something like that and you want to work with them, you will need to be able to do a direct interview if that's the route you want to take, and cite it. So it's not enough to just know them and pull from conversations that you've had in the past. There will need to be some kind of formality to it. So think about that as you consider your final papers for the end of the session that will be in lieu of a final exam. Okay, so another thing about the schedule, remember the week starts on Wednesday, and to get full credit for timeliness, your first response to the discussion board needs to be there by Friday evening. So it's just a way that we make sure that everybody has a chance to review each other's posts and work through the weekend and the last couple of days of the school week to interact and see what you guys are kind of learning from each other. Okay, so the one thing for this week, we talk about customer relationship management, and I don't know if this will make sense or if it's a little bit too esoteric, but I like to think of it as relationships create relationships among the data. So if we have a strong relationship with our customers, we'll actually see a relationship between our customer loyalty and profitability, and then all those data points will start to see relationships. If we don't have strong personal relationships with our customers, the data will not reflect that there's any connection between profitability, loyalty, and so on with the customer base. So you have to develop a relationship so that you can build those corresponding data points. You want to grow the profitability, you want to grow the loyalty, but you can't do that unless you build a strong relationship. So what you'll find when you read the content this week is that there's some information about why do some CRM programs work for some companies, and then that same exact type of program implemented in another organization doesn't work. So first and foremost, it's almost always about the people who are implementing it and their ability to develop authentic relationships. And when we talk about relationships, we can work as hard as we can on collecting big data, but if we don't have the right people in place, it will not get implemented in a way that will benefit our corporation or our business or our organization if it's a nonprofit or so on. And I think it's the second article, there's a little side note, and I really like it because it says if you ask 10 experts what CRM is, you'll get 10 different answers. And that's almost always true because we haven't really identified exactly what CRM looks like in a broad scope that applies to all the organizations that we cover. So what CRM looks like for one organization will be different than another. So when you work on those final papers, you guys will all come up with different ways to implement a CRM program based on the type of company that you choose. So it will always look a little different from one business to another, even if they're big businesses like Tesla or Amazon or Microsoft or Apple. They all have slightly different approaches to their CRM, but what they all are trying to do is take that customer satisfaction, build it to retention and loyalty. They want that concept to go forward. So if there is one thing that applies across the board, it's those ideas of creating that loyal customer over time. And then I think it's the last article, it somewhat describes the risk of creating a CRM program that customers feel like exploit them. So instead of them feeling valued and that you're trying to pull that data, kind of like the video from the first discussion where he used all that information to build a strong connection with his customer and offer better strategies and better action points than his competitors. Some organizations will find that they look as though they are exploiting their customers by collecting data that maybe they didn't want to be collected or that they feel like is a little bit of an imposition rather than a benefit. So how do we avoid that? So we'll talk about that in that third article. So I think that covers most of what we're talking about. In the discussion board, you'll take you'll take a little bit of this information that we've talked about this week and really describe how that manifests itself. So specifically in an economic downturn, which we are experiencing for sure at the moment, and to an extent that probably we haven't had to discuss in the past in this class. How do we maintain loyalty in the times that we have right now or in the past? We can look historically when there have been economic downturns. How did some companies maintain that loyalty with their customers? So that's the idea that you'll be discussing this week. Make sure you get it up by the weekend for full credit and then take a look at what everybody else is saying. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I'm here if you need me. Just email me and I'll respond as quickly as possible. Have a great week.